I appreciate your time too. I appreciate your time as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's
I,
always great connecting with you.
I know, right? I appreciate it. So we are live. We are streaming here on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So you can definitely follow us on either platform. But today I have a special surprise for you all. I have our very own Bryce Tubbs here to give you guys a little bit about who he is and why we put this together for you guys, especially if you're looking to get into the bookkeeping space. I know we're getting ready to transition all of my professionals here. And so, why not take a look at another avenue that can help someone kind of grow and expand the market that they're in?
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Really, really happy to be here. My name is Bryce J. Tubbs. So I got started with bookkeeping and CFO work back in 2015. Um, it was very, very hard for me in the beginning because I was very bad at marketing, sales, and pricing, which is basically what I'm going to talk about today. So over probably about a 14-month period, I basically invested $35,000 in like courses, mentorships, masterminds, and just anything to get my hands onto in order to learn the topics that, I've essentially become very, very good at. And yeah, so one thing as well is like once I started getting better with like bookkeeping and CFO work, I got to about 16 grand per month. And I started going inside of like Facebook groups. And I'd basically say, like, hey, can people help me with some of these contracts? Because at that time I was the one that was doing the majority of the work myself. And I was just kind of running into capacity issues. So I would go inside the groups and I'd basically say, hey, I have a contract. This person's paying me $9,000. I'll pay you $4,500 if you can get the work done within like this X amount of time. But every single time I would do that, I would get anywhere between like 40 to 50 people reaching out to me in a very, very short time period. And of course, since there's only one contract, you have to turn down a lot of people. So the more that I did that inside those groups, people would start asking me, like, what was I doing to, really grow my business? Because a lot of people, maybe they have like a tax firm, or maybe they're working in accounting, but really adding bookkeeping services and being able to go full time in their business is really challenging for a lot of people. So in 2019, we officially launched like a coaching slash mentorship business to basically show people what I was doing inside of my bookkeeping and CFO firm. So nowadays, we run both the CFO and bookkeeping firm as well as a mentorship program. It's been a pretty rewarding journey so far. Now, in terms of why to add bookkeeping service to your tax firm, there's a couple different reasons why bookkeeping services are really good. There's a couple reasons why bookkeeping services are really bad. And if I'm looking down a lot today, guys, because I wrote a very, very, very extensive amount of notes for this interview. But in terms of bookkeeping, recurring revenue, that's always, always great, right? One of the hardest things in business is number one, getting clients. Number two is keeping clients. But naturally, with a bookkeeping service, people need your service over and over and over and over again. So it makes the business like making money a lot easier. Next thing is easy to get referrals. Almost every single business in the United States, or if you're watching this in Canada, can utilize your service. Next thing is once you do get a certain number of clients, you really don't need to spend as much time like hunting or doing marketing because you can live off referrals. And again, the recurring revenue keeps paying you money. So once you kind of hit whatever your financial goal is, you can coast there. And we'll talk about how to like really control your cash flow. But it's very, very, very simple to kind of go, as well as you can automate a lot of the workload because bookkeeping work is generally very simple. So that you don't actually have to do the work yourself. You could have it as automated as possible, maybe have like a staff accountant who doesn't really have to cost a lot of money, just overview the work for you and just really handle a lot of it yourself. Now, next thing, why is bookkeeping bad? So bookkeeping is it's not really just like this ultimate business model where it's all positive, no negatives. Number one, even though people need your services, a lot of people don't really understand why they need your service and to what degree. So it causes people to kind of nickel and dime you when you're presenting your service. And if you don't really understand how to present your value, it's very hard to get people to want to pay you the correct price points. Next thing is most businesses are too small to pay high priced for this service, right? Most clients that you're probably going to see on social media or on the internet are generally doing between like zero to about $450,000 per year inside their business, which is a good income for some of them, but it's very hard for them to pay the price points we're going to be talking about later if they can't really afford it. And then finally, learning to sell is very tricky. Kind of what we talked about in the negative like step number one, that people don't really understand like why they need it. It does make it hard to sell because if you don't know what you're doing, you have to basically like arm wrestle the person, understand like why they need your service. And we're going to also break down sales in a minute so you don't have to be arm wrestling people. And also, anytime during this, me and Kentrella are really looking at the comments section, and we're really, trying to make this interactive for you. So in some cases, like for live videos, people maybe don't want to comment because like maybe they think that like if I ask a bad question, the person's going to really dislike me, or people are going to know that I don't know what I'm doing. I wouldn't really worry about that. We're really open to helping people out. Kentrella is very helpful when it comes to like educating people on like, taxes, bookkeeping, and just growing a business. I'm the same way. I love doing bookkeeping. I love doing coaching. I love helping people out because, people helped me out when I was first getting started. So if you ever have a comment or a question, please put it inside the chat below. And I'm going to have Kentrella, maybe basically just like interrupt me and say, hey, there's a question. And if it's, in line with what we're talking about at the moment, we'll answer it. If it's not, we might have to wait for a little bit, but I really want to help you out. Also, if you want to learn any of this stuff deeper that we're talking about on this video today, you can go ahead and type in new6fpbook.com. That is a link to my new book, which basically breaks down how to start adding accounting and bookkeeping services to your existing business. Now, I would recommend you look at it. It has a lot of descriptions about it. And basically what we're talking about today is really it's good food for thought, and it really is very practical information. But if you want a more complete version of that, go and get the book, because it basically walks through step-by-step how to start growing your business. And we'll talk more about that later. So when it comes to implementing accounting and bookkeeping services, there are 4 main steps you have to go through in order for you to really, really be good. Okay, first is pricing. Second is marketing. Third is sales. Fourth is really buying back your time and building a team. Now, I don't think we're going to be able to go through every single step, but I want to go very deeply through the most important ones. So first thing is pricing. So usually what happens is that whenever you're pricing your accounting or bookkeeping services, you want to make sure you're getting paid upfront for setting up the client's books and/or cleaning up the client's books. Setting up is if someone has no accounting records, maybe they have everything in a shoebox or maybe on a napkin or Excel, and you're really helping them get put on an accounting software like QuickBooks or Xero. There's a lot of different types of accounting softwares. The main one that the market uses right now is QuickBooks, various versions of QuickBooks, as well as one called Xero. Now, the second version of how you get paid up front is called a cleanup. So a cleanup is basically when a business owner either has done their bookkeeping wrong for a period of time, or they just haven't done their bookkeeping for an extended period of time. This can be anywhere from 3 days in the past to 3 years that they have not done their accounting or bookkeeping. And this is where a lot of bookkeepers, if you know how to price your services, can make a very, very, very good amount of money. I had a student 2 weeks ago inside of our mentorship program get paid $40,000 upfront for a cleanup without doing any work. Okay, so basically, how do you really calculate a cleanup? It's really you take the number of months that the person is either needing to be fixed or the person is behind, and you multiply it by whatever your monthly price is that you're charging that individual, and that's going to be the cleanup rate. Now, how do you calculate a monthly price? Okay, this is one thing that most people get wrong, because if you undercharge, it really sabotages your ability to go and reach a high revenue goal, we'll say 10K, 12K, 15, 20K per month. Okay, it's the number one mistake I see. I had a student that joined our mentorship program. She had been in business since 2008, and she had 31 bookkeeping clients. She was only making $3,500 per month. I see Kentrella said pricing. Awesome. Yeah. So at $3,500 per month, for some people, that's a good amount of money to maybe live off of. But for her, it wasn't really enough for her to live off. So she was working a full-time job plus managing 31 clients for the last 10 plus years. Versus a lot of students in our mentorship programs, they're able to go and get to 6 figures very quickly, not because we're getting 1 million clients, but because we understand how to price out our services on a monthly basis. Now, when it comes to charging for monthly prices for bookkeeping, you're shooting for between $500 to $5,000 per month per client. And in our program, again, we give you guys pricing calculators so you don't really have to guesstimate what the worth actually is. But if you don't have that, I actually want to give you guys a really simple way to kind of think about your pricing goal. And it's okay, you might need to rewatch this video a couple times. So I'm going to go pretty quickly through it because I don't want to take a super amount of time, but you can watch on the replay. So number one, you're going to take whatever your revenue goal is, divided by your working hours you want to work. So let's say, for example, your goal is to go and get, we'll say $100,000 for the year. So we'll do $100,000. And let's say that you're just going to do a very standard kind of like American work week, right? That's about 40 hours a week. Basically, you would take $100,000 divided by the number 2080, because that's about how many hours are in like a work year if you're working 40 hours a week. So we do $100,000 divided by 2080. That's going to be about $48. That means as long as you're making at least $48 per hour that you're working, you're going to be on track for $100,000. Now, that's how you get your hourly rate, right? But we don't want to stop there, because a lot of people don't really want to charge per hour for their bookkeeping services. They want to do a flat rate. The reason why flat rate is good is because it allows you to be able to have more consistency in your income. You don't have to like think about, okay, this month they gave me a bunch of hours. Next month they gave me like 0 hours, so I don't get paid the same every single month. You want it to be as flat as possible, because flat is very predictable, and predictability leads to success when it comes to business. So now that you have your per hour goal, you're going to go and look in the client's books and see how many transactions the person has. You're going to take the number of transactions, and if a person doesn't have books, you can go like get their bank statements and just count the number of lines on their bank statement, okay? You're basically going to take that number of transactions, multiply it by 1.5. I'm going to assume it's going to take you 1.5 minutes per transaction you have to do. And then basically what you do is now you have the number of transactions times 1.5. Let's say, for example, there's 100 transactions that are going to be inside of this thing. So 100 transactions multiplied by 1.5, that's about 150 minutes per month that it should take you in order to do the work. So we're going to divide that by 60, right? Because there's 60 minutes in 1 hour. So that's about 2.5 hours that 100 transaction is going to take you. Just writing down my notes to make sure I don't like mess up the number. So then basically what you do is, you take the number of hours. So we'll do 2.5 and we'll do it times your hourly rate, which is $48. That means you'd be charging about $120 for that amount of work. Okay. That's a very simple thing. Most people's books are going to be a lot more. And plus most people's books are going to be able to get like just much more like months, especially if you're doing a cleanup. But that's the very, very base level of how you can do an hourly rate. Now, that is going to be a good starting point, but it is based on you being able to see inside of the other person's books. Sometimes what happens when you're doing like bookkeeping services is the other person might get a little bit slippery when you're asking about like what is your books. Like they might not want to show you what's inside their account. They might not want to show you their bank statements, and they might want you to be like, just take their word for it. Oftentimes what happens whenever a business owner tells you the number of transactions they have, oftentimes they either don't know what a transaction is, or they grossly underestimate how many transactions they have. And if you take their word value for it, then it does make it very hard for you to be able to get the price point that are actually accurate. And then when you get inside the books, you end up having to spend a lot more time and you end up undervaluing your price points. So my recommendation to you would always be to either like look inside the person's books or get a copy of like their bank statements before you take on the work, so you know exactly how much time it's going to take you to really protect yourself and protect your time. Okay. One other bonus thing you can do to kind of check if a price is reasonable. Some people ask me how do I know if someone's going to accept my price quote? How do I know if something's reasonable? Generally, what I like to do is once you have a flat rate kind of like created, like the math example we just did, you would go and look at the person's revenue and you multiply it by, basically you just look at like what is 1% of their revenue. So let's say a company is doing about $3 million per year. You multiply by 0.01. That's about $30,000. Okay. You divide that by about 12. That means that as long as you're charging at under or around $2,500 per month, the person should accept your price quote with very little pushback. Now, once you start going above that 1%, like when you start getting like 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, that's when you will get a little bit of pushback. And pushback is not bad. It's just you have to prepare for that inside of your consultation call, so you can actually like really get the value like built up, so the person understands like why should they be paying you the price point that you're asking for. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys when it comes to pricing. If you have any questions about pricing, put it inside the chat. Love to answer you. We're going to start moving on to marketing, but I'm going to give you guys a couple of seconds. Also, what we're doing is we're going to post the link to the book inside of the chat. I'm going to send it to Cantrella. I don't have access to the actual comments, so I can actually post it. So I'm going to send it to you. Maybe you can post it inside the comment section. So everyone can go pick that up if they would feel like it. Awesome. All right, cool. So next thing is going to be about marketing. Okay. So when it comes to marketing, most people start with social media, right? There's going to be three main social media platforms most people use: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, right? Now, no matter which one you choose, it doesn't really matter. They're very similar. It's just more about like which one can you be consistent on, and which one do you really like get the most enjoyment out of long term. Because one thing you know about in business is like the longer you can be consistent with something, the more successful you're going to be. Because a lot of this stuff in business just keeps building up over time, right? Because number one, you might talk to someone and maybe they're interested, but maybe they have to go and like, build up some cash flow, or maybe their business is too small to use your service right now. But in 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, they're generally going to be ready. And if they like you, they're going to move forward with you over time. So by you building and being consistent, you keep getting more and more people essentially on your wait list that are waiting to be in a position to actually work with you. That makes it very easy for you to keep growing your business. That's why year after year after year, as long as you're being consistent, you should keep growing your business. So your main goal is, how do you get your first client? Once you get your first client, how do you stay consistent enough and really just charge the right price points so that when you do get to like, maybe we'll say like 75K, within the next 6 months to a year from now, you should be at like 140 to maybe even $200,000 per year with your monthly recurring services. So that's number one. Next thing is, the things that take the longest to build are usually the best. So when I say that, like, for example, like my YouTube channel, that's been one of the best investments that I've made. I paid a guy $5,000 to show me the basics of like YouTube, right? And that has made me a lot of money, multiple six figures a year. Next thing is my Facebook group, right? That took a long time to build, right? We have pretty close to 40,000 people inside that Facebook group, but that just keeps getting more and more leads, more and more people every single time. Next thing is a book, right? People talk about this book. This book has been a really great investment, but each of these three things have taken a very, very long time to build. But the reason why it's important to do stuff that is hard, or that, maybe doesn't scale in a traditional way that most people would think, is because no one else is going to be willing to do it. So, for example, there's less competition, especially on YouTube. Like for me, for example, I have 1,000 videos on my YouTube channel. Most of my competitors don't have that much. And it didn't really take that much, but, it took a lot of time to build it. Second thing is, everything compounds on the internet. So every YouTube video that I do caused me to be seen by a new person. And since I have 1,000 videos on there, when someone sees one video, they watch the next video, then they watch the next video, and they watch the next video, and they watch the next video, and they just keep going back through over and over and over again. The same thing with your blog. Like, let's say that you don't like doing videos. Let's say that you're doing a blog. You have one blog post, you put it up on Google. Google's going to show it to someone that could potentially be your client. And the more and more of these blog posts that you've taken the time to do on a day-by-day or week-by-week basis, the easier it is for someone to want to work with you. So even though it's hard in the short term, it's very, very, very rewarding in the long term. So if I had known that when I first got started, it would have totally changed the way that I did business, and it would have made it even easier to go and reach the point that I am at now. I wouldn't have had to spend over $150,000 on courses to kind of learn this stuff. Cool. So next thing. So now that you're able to have like maybe like your viewers kind of like binge watch your stuff, and like maybe you've done some stuff that's hard, let's talk about the critical parts of marketing. Okay, so branding. So when it comes to branding, most people have a misinterpretation of like what the point of branding is. So it's not just your colors and it's not just your fonts, right? Because most people, they're thinking about like colors just because like, it's their favorite color. So maybe it's like they love like red or they love like blue. That's your favorite color. But every single color actually conveys a certain message about your brand to the person that is watching it. And the combination of colors also puts together like a sentence, right, that tells people subconsciously what to believe about you. The same thing with your fonts. Are you using a very like maybe use like a very playful font, right? Does that mean the brand's very playful? Do you use a very like strict type of font? Do you use a very like professional type of font? That's going to really determine like how people kind of see your brand and make it really easy, kind of like portray certain characteristics to you before they ever even start wanting to work with you. Now, when I think of branding, right, on top of our colors and on top of our fonts, I'm thinking of what are the main messages and ideas that people are going to be communicating about you, myself, or whoever, and is it going to be moving them towards working with you or moving away from working with you? So things that impact your brand are reviews. Things that impact your brand are your website, your colors, your social media platforms, the way that you present yourself. It doesn't just have to be like professional or personal. Like you can have a really good personal profile that adds a lot to your company brand. A lot of our students, like maybe they'll post things about like their personal life, and it causes clients to actually want to work with them. For example, one of my students named James, he's really interested in like flying airplanes and stuff. So he is, one of his hobbies is like flying airplanes. Some of his clients actually own like jets, like real like really expensive kind of airplanes, and they connect with them because of that fact that he understands like what they're going through, the cost of fuel, what it's like to like fly a plane or to land a plane or to take off of the plane, and it makes everything very easy for them to really like understand how to work together. Also, if you guys have any questions about brand, if you're watching this thing on the replay, that's okay too. You can send me a message either on Facebook or go watch my YouTube channel and then send me a message. Same thing with Cantrella. We're always here to help. So just because maybe you couldn't watch it live because we're doing it, in the middle of your workday, if you want to go and like ask questions afterwards, feel free to do so. On my Facebook account, I don't really log in my Facebook as often these days because I am a little bit busy, but I will log in and like respond to your question as soon as I possibly can. Awesome. Cool. So Cantrell, I guess like what are your thoughts, I guess, here? Do you have any questions when it comes to branding? Or I know you know your audience probably better than I do. Maybe if you can, like, what are some common questions they might have around like branding or they might have around like marketing? Just, off the top of your head of what you've been asked.
I know when building a business, we'll get branding and marketing kind of confused. And so when they hear the word branding and marketing, first thing people want to do is kind of shy away from it because they're so into building their business, and they forget that there's some stuff that they're going to have to backtrack when it comes to branding and marketing, because the branding and marketing is what? The talking, the communication to your audience on your image. What do you bring forward? What are your colors? How does it speak to the community? So great questions, great feedback. I don't see any questions yet. And if you're ready for next segment, we can go ahead and continue on.
Awesome. Yeah, so I mean that's the big thing. I mean, like when it comes to marketing, most people, including myself, don't really understand like what internet marketing is. So like internet marketing at its very like simplest terms is you get a list of names of people, you put them on a spreadsheet, and your job is to build a relationship with them. Okay. Now, as you get more and more sophisticated, the number of names on your list can afford to be smaller because you're better at understanding who goes on that list. But in the beginning, like ideally that if you have your list, it's not just like random like phone numbers that you got from like the phone book. You would have used some sort of like signaling indication that a person's interested in working with you in order to do so. So what I like to do, and this is what we kind of teach inside of the book and what we teach inside of some of our programs, is you go after your referral partners. So you use social media where most people are already placing their attention, their focus, and you start building relationships with individuals that have your best quality clients already inside of like their control or their audience, right? So once you do that and you build that relationship, oftentimes these people will give you the contact information of people that are looking for accounting and bookkeeping services. From there, you add those people to your market a multi-crafting business. Cool. So one thing that you do, sorry, one sec. I saw a comment inside. Someone said, question the post. How do you market a multi-crafting business? When I say like crafting, is like just like crafts and artwork, or how so? When I say crafting. So I'm going to assume that maybe you're talking about like arts and crafts. So the number one thing is you got to get your price point up high, right? So for example, I sell my family has been in like art for a very long time. That used to be one thing that I used to sell a lot of, and these are like high ticket sculptures, anywhere from like $3,000 to about $10,000 per sculpture, right? So first things first, you got to be able to raise your price, right? You can't, it's very hard to make money on something that's like less than $10, especially if it's something that you're actually making yourself. So if you're going to do like a painting, like you need to have your painting anywhere between like, maybe $150 to like $450 per painting. That's number one. Number two, you need to have a really good source of like leads and traffic. So there's a couple different places that a lot of people use. Number one could be you do like art fairs. Okay. So whenever I think about art fairs, like you literally have to register for them ahead of time, probably about 3 to 6 months ahead of time. They're in various cities throughout the United States. And you basically go there for like a weekend, you set up your booth, and then you're able to basically sell your service, almost like a marketplace essentially. Another way you can do is going on like Etsy or Saatchi. Etsy is a little bit better for like crafts and like getting like maybe some like the more handmade stuff. Saatchi is a little bit more like higher ticket, but they're both pretty much the same. When it comes to Etsy, you just have to go and like do a lot of research when it comes to like how to get your listings to not only rise to the top of the Etsy search results, but you also make sure that when people actually land on those images or whatever, people will actually buy it from you. So it does take a little bit of skill to be able to do it. It's very similar like to marketing like a bookkeeping or accounting business. Everything on the internet is very, very similar. It's just at the end of the day, like what product you're actually selling. So first things first, price it right. Number two, know where you're going to be selling it. Number three, you got to have either a good sales pitch or a very good like sales script to be able to answer the question when people ask like, why is the price the way that it is? So on Etsy, you're generally doing that inside of your listing, which has like really, really good words that basically convinces someone to want to buy it at the current price when you have it listed. If you're at an art fair, you just need to understand like what's your story, why do you do what you do, what are the materials that you use, why does this thing have value? If it doesn't have intrinsic value, for example, for our metal sculptures, like you can kind of get away with like charging a higher price point because you can blame the price of metal to a certain degree, right? So if you have a sculpture and it costs $1,800 to build, okay, well, of course you're going to charge like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. If it's something like a painting where like maybe you go to like, Joanne Fabrics and you get like acrylics for paint and like your canvas is maybe like $100, if you're trying to sell something for $1,000, $2,000, you need to be able to kind of go more into the story of the painting and use more emotions to kind of build a case for why you should be, charging the price that you're asking. So hopefully that answers your question. The person on the YouTube comments who said, how do you market a multi-crafting business? If you have a follow-up question, let me know that as well. Cool. Okay. Awesome. Are there any other questions that you guys want to answer? One thing I'm going to do, if we get enough interest, I have a Google document that basically breaks down every single thing we talked about and also stuff that we might not have a lot of time to talk about today. We really only have about 30 minutes that we can generally do that. Because like once you start going over certain kind of like time stamp inside of Facebook, it starts showing to less and less people. So we do like to keep this under a certain amount of time to make sure that the majority of people that want to watch this can watch this. And if you have follow-up questions, you can either go to the Google document, you can ask Cantrella, or you can ask myself. We'd love to be able to be a resource for you to be able to make sure that we can go and help this. Okay. And then any other questions, Cantrella, or any rounding up notes? Do you like have like an outro that you'd like to do or say?
No, that's it. We do have Miss Yolanda. Thank you so much. She said thank you so much as well. Three other topics that we weren't able to cover today?
Mm-hmm. Yep, we were kind of able to cover a little bit about marketing, but we kind of ran out of time. Next thing is going to be sales. Next thing is going to be how to build a team. Now, majority of people on here, the biggest thing, like if you're just starting to bring that service to market, you got to get your pricing, you got to get your marketing down. When you guys do start getting to market, you start getting more people that are interested in your services, feel free to reach out to either one of us. We can actually give you more notes when it comes to sales or help you really prepare for that sales training and that sales kind of script you need to do. So at least with the video stuff we've covered today, you understand your basics of pricing, you understand a little bit about marketing, understanding of like online marketing and how to go after referral partners. So when you get like the results from that, come back to us. We'll be able to like do it. And if need be, in some cases, like I'll even like, do a call with you and see if there's any way I can help you out. In the meantime, I recommend you go and get a copy of our book. It's called new6fpbook.com, and you'll be able to go pick up a copy. Right now, if you buy it off that website, it's about $4.99. We have it as a promotional price because I want to get it as many hands as possible to help out as many people that I possibly can. Because in this kind of game, there's a lot of businesses. There are 30.1 million small businesses inside the United States. Generally, in terms of bookkeeping and accounting firms, there's 54,000 CPA firms. There are 344,000 bookkeeping firms in the United States. That means there's plenty of business for everyone to go around. There's plenty of room for you if there's something that you want to add in, okay? So hopefully you learned something new. We thank you so much. Thank you, Cantrella, for allowing me to host this interview today. And I really appreciate you guys' time. Have a good rest of your day, okay? Take it easy.
All right. Thank you so much.